Hello friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Today, the first annual Gents Fragrance Draft. That's right guys, we're doing the ultimate fragrance draft. 7 rounds, just like the NFL draft. 7 different categories. I have to draft a fragrance from a pool of contenders and make my dream collection from these 7 rounds. 7 picks, gotta get them right. Let's do it. And all the fragrances that we are drafting today are designer fragrances, so no niche or indie in this list to keep it a little more simple. I'll have my winners linked in the description below, and guys, as we go through the categories, I want you to draft from this pool of fragrances also, and let me know at the end in the comments, how did your draft turn out? Same as mine, different, wildly different, kind of similar? Let's see. Also, if you want some codes for fragrance shopping, pause your video now. Codes for you. 4 different websites. If you're looking for fragrances on any of those sites, use those codes, save some money. This is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna go through each category. I will give you the pool of fragrances that I had to pull from. I will let you know my choice, and as I said, you guys pick along as well. The first category, round 1, citrus-based fragrances. So these are fragrances dominated by citrus, especially off the top. We're talking lemon, grapefruit, bergamot, orange, fragrances that are invigorating, uplifting, fresh, and zesty. That's what we're looking at. So the pool of fragrances that you can draft one from are as follows. Dolce & Gabbana's Light Blue Forever. I mean, what can you say about that one, right? Just a grapefruit bomb. For some people, a little bit too off-putting, too much grapefruit. It can be a little divisive because it is rindy, it's slightly sour to go along with that freshness and sweetness, but Light Blue Forever, first option. Dior Homme Cologne gets compared to the smell of an iced lemonade, perfect for a hot summer day. Eau Sauvage Cologne, also from Dior. This one, a classier fragrance, a little throwback, of course, being part of that Eau Sauvage line. And the citrus here is gonna be a little bit sharper compared to the citrus in the first 2 fragrances. Then we've got Varvatos Artisan Pure, big citrus bomb. This one, a whole bunch of different citrus notes off the top, including ones you don't see all that often, like clementine. And it's got a really nice smoothness to it, kind of a softness to it. Makes it a perfect fragrance to wear in more formal situations when it's hot out, and casually as well. And then Hugo Reversed, kind of the dark horse here. One of the cheapest in the bunch, and it's been compared to Roger Parfum's Elysium, like a budget version of Elysium. So there are your options. Those 5 fragrances, you gotta draft one to be your citrus scent in your collection. And for this one, I thought about it and I was eliminating them, came down to the final 2, and those 2 fragrances were Artisan Pure and Light Blue Forever. I just felt like those 2 would probably give me the most use out of the 5, and the one that I ended up going with, the one I drafted in the first round, Light Blue Forever. Now this one I've put a pretty good dent in, even though I've got a bajillion bottles. Wife is in love with the stuff. I think the opening is fantastic. Like I said though, it is more divisive. So there will be more people out there potentially that don't like the opening of Light Blue Forever compared to the opening of Artisan Pure. So if I were erring just on the side of caution, on the safest side, I'd go Artisan Pure. But for me, Light Blue Forever. All right, round 2. Date night fragrances. These are fragrances typically more on the warm side, the sweet side of things that are going to be a little bit more alluring, inviting, intoxicating, whatever you want to call it. Compliment pullers that oftentimes have a warm spiciness or some vanilla warmth in there. Fragrances great at pulling positive attention and compliments with warm spices and sweetness. So here are the options. The first one, Azzaro Wanted by Night. Kind of a different choice here, you know, not the typical date night fragrance. It's got a little more of a unique flair to it. It has been slightly harder to find at discounters here recently, but for a long time it was extremely inexpensive, which made it a great bargain choice. The next option, La Nuit de l'Homme, Eau de Toilette, the original from YSL. Known for the cardamom note that it has, it really does that warm spiciness perfectly. Has a great sweetness to it, big compliment puller. And since we have La Nuit de l'Homme in here, I gotta go with the one as well. The one Eau de Parfum from Dolce & Gabbana. Those 2 fragrances, I feel like, La Nuit de l'Homme and the one, are the first fragrances that pop into a lot of people's minds when they think date night scents. And I can see why. The one Eau de Parfum is one of my most complimented fragrances of all time. After that, Azzaro's The Most Wanted, not the most wanted parfum, just the most wanted, which is a great twist on a current, very popular style of fragrance with a little gourmand sweetness to it. Another one, fantastic warmth and a big compliment puller. And then last but definitely not least, Tom Ford's Noir Extreme. This one is very unique as well, as a nice Colfie note in there, which gets brought up every time the fragrance is brought up, but you kind of have to, because where else do you see that note? Just the way the spice hits with a little bit of sweetness underneath makes it perfect for a date. So this one was an extremely difficult choice for me. And again, I went back and forth between two different fragrances. And the one that I think I'm gonna go with is Noir Extreme, and right behind that, The Most Wanted. It's just neck and neck. I feel like Noir Extreme gives me slightly more unique scent profile while still maintaining that compliment factor, that usability, and that date night kind of allure. But The Most Wanted is just an amazing attention grabber. Would be a perfect fall and wintertime fragrance. So it's really difficult. Okay, next up, round 3, blue fragrances. Oftentimes people will think of blue fragrances as being more like a summertime scent profile, but really these are scents that are made to be versatile, to be used, to be the type of fragrances you can wear almost anywhere, and they're gonna work well. Extremely people-pleasing scents. Here are the contenders. First up, Versace Dylan Blue. Thought about putting Eros in here, but went with Dylan Blue because to me, Dylan Blue is the more obvious contender in this lineup. I mean, it has blue in the name. And Dylan Blue is one that I think is actually sometimes underrated, believe it or not, because it doesn't get heralded as much as a lot of the other big blue fragrances out there, but it has similar qualities and it has the same amount of versatility as these other blue scents, only it's more affordable at discounters. Then we've got Sauvage Eau de Toilette from Dior. You can't leave out Sauvage. I mean, it's the best-selling fragrance in the United States, probably the world. A lot of ambroxan in there, kind of a metallic feel off the top, bergamot, giving you that citrus that kind of leads you into the fragrance as it dries down, and it's just a monster. Stuff projects, it lasts forever, and it gets compliments. Why Eau de Parfum after that from Yves Saint Laurent? This one a little bit sweeter than Dior Sauvage. It's got some amberwood in there as it dries, a good amount of apple and sage in the top and mid. Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, also an option, and yeah, what can you say about Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum? This stuff, just insane in terms of the usability. When I talk versatility, and I'm talking like the tops of the tops as far as versatility, that is Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum. And then the final fragrance in this category, Luna Rossa Ocean Eau de Toilette. Prada finally getting into the blue fragrance game with a blue bottle. You could say Luna Rossa Carbon was a blue fragrance, but that's more like Dior Sauvage done with a Prada twist, whereas Luna Rossa Ocean is them doing their own blue fragrance DNA with a nice bit of iris in there as well. So this one, again, came down to 2 fragrances for me. Not that it was easy, but I was able to whittle it down to the final 2, and those were Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum and Y Eau de Parfum. And the fragrance that I ended up going with is Y Eau de Parfum. Now I know some people are gonna be like, no, sacrilege, how could you? It's too sweet, you can't wear it in the summer. I just think Y Eau de Parfum, as far as my own personal taste, what works well for me is gonna win out in this round. Yes, I know it's sweeter, but in summertime I just wear a little bit less and it works awesome. People love the way this stuff smells when I wear it. So why EDP? Yeah, I know. Round 4, timeless classics. Fragrances that have stood the test of time, fragrances that changed up the way fragrances are used, the way they're viewed, fragrances that have been able to maintain at least a modicum of popularity over the years since they were first released. So in this one, we have Dior Fahrenheit, the original Eau de Toilette. Obviously spawned many flankers. Unfortunately, a lot of those flankers no longer around, but Fahrenheit Le Parfum is still highly sought after and has that original Fahrenheit DNA, only smoothed out and sweetened up and also made alcoholic with a good amount of booze. Fahrenheit EDT, most well known for that petrol or gasoline vibe off the top. Then there is Aqua de Jo, Eau de Toilette, the original Aqua de Jo. I mean, what can you say about that one, right? Aqua de Jo still going very strongly. New fragrance releases coming out every year, which are highly anticipated. And the original Aqua de Jo is still a bestseller in the US. Then we have Terre d'Hermès from Hermès. Heavy hitters. It's like a murderer's row. Terre d'Hermès has that great vetiver and earthy orange kind of mixing together, giving you this very classy, sophisticated men's scent with a little bit of an edge. Then we have Cool Water from Davidoff, which is essentially like a tweaked, more affordable version of Green Hours Tweed, but still, can't deny it. Still sells. It's been out for decades. People still wearing it. And then Chanel Platinum Egoist. Another wonderful, classy, sophisticated men's fragrance that still works today just as well as when it first came out. I was gonna put Dracar Noir in this one, but that's just not fair. So I didn't put Dracar Noir in, but then I did put in Aqua de Jo, so I went with Aqua de Jo. I just have such a strong personal affinity to the fragrance, having worn this for years when it first came out and still wearing a Profondo with regularity. So Aqua de Jo for me. But I don't feel great about leaving those other ones out and, not being able to draft them also. Round 5, office appropriate fragrances. So these are fragrances that are good for professional settings, fragrances that are going to be not divisive, not aggressive, not potentially off-putting, while giving you an elegant and sophisticated sort of vibe. And we got some doozies in this one too. The first one, Tom Ford Grey Vetiver Eau de Parfum. Grey Vetiver to a lot of people is the benchmark for a designer office safe fragrance, and it makes sense why. The vetiver in there has been stripped of a lot of that potential dirtiness, off-puttingness, grassiness that some people shy away from, and it is a Tom Ford, so you have that quality there. Another gray fragrance up next, the One Gray from Dolce & Gabbana. Now this one gets hated on actually a decent amount, but I think as far as office scents go, it's a really good one. It has that vetiver, and it's got a similar idea to Grey Vetiver, which makes sense because it's the One Gray Vetiver, yeah. So the vetiver here is on the cleaner side of things, and you do have a little bit of the One DNA kind of lurking underneath this little bit of sweetness that's in there. Follow that one up with Prada L'Homme. Prada L'Homme, a very clean iris-based fragrance, kind of a powdery, soapy iris with supporting floral notes in there alongside the iris. Very easy wearing fragrance. Dunhill Icon after that one, and Dunhill Icon at this point is a great sort of cheapy buy. Not too expensive compared to a lot of the other fragrances that we've mentioned here today, and it has good staying power. It's gonna remind you of fragrances like Cartier's Declaration or potentially Terre d'Hermes, kind of in that family. And then the last option, Narciso Rodriguez Bleu Noir for him Eau de Toilette. And this also, to an extent, kind of in that wheelhouse, just like Dunhill Icon is. Kind of musky, woody, elegant, with a little hint of sweetness. So for this one, an underdog one. Actually, the first thing I was thinking was, just go Grey Vetiver. If I sat around and thought about it more, maybe I would come back around and say Grey Vetiver, but I'm actually gonna go with the Narciso. I just really like how, as this dries down, that bit of sweetness comes out and mixes with the woods that are there, and that musky undertone really keeps it not fresh, but like elegantly fresh as it dries. So the Narciso pulling out the win there. Round 6, almost at the end, sporty fragrances. These are ostensibly made for people doing sports or being active, going to the gym. For this one, I picked 5 fragrances that had sport in the name. So the first one is Azzaro Sport, which is cheap. Then we have Dior Homme Sport, and we're talking about the new version of Dior Homme Sport. It has a bit of a similarity to Dior Homme 2020, only made fresher and easier to wear, especially in high heat. Then we have Polo Sport Fresh from Ralph Lauren, and this one actually is surprisingly decent. The presentation is not great, the cap is very cheap, but it has a nice pillowy, soft sweetness to it, along with that fresh edge. Makes it easy to wear. Then we've got Chanel Allure Homme Sport, big boy right there. A little bit similar to Versace Pour Homme, but has more heft to it. It's got a little more sweetness to it. And even though it's a sport fragrance, Allure Homme Sport really you could wear year round. And then very different one, Encre Noir Sport from Lalique. This is not as sporty perhaps as the other options. Encre Noir Sport has that Encre Noir edge to it. So it's got that woodiness, a little bit of darkness to it, but splashed with water and cleaned up a little. So this one, for me, my own personal taste was actually pretty easy. If I was gonna be able to just keep one of those, the one that I would wear the most, it's gonna be Dior Homme Sport. Love it. Love it. Just the right amount of fresh spice, a little sweetness, but not much. That woodiness, very modern. Yeah, love it. So Dior Homme Sport, easy choice for me on this one. Round 7, the final round, boozy fragrances. Fragrances that have had a bit to drink. So these are gonna be fragrances that feature boozy notes, obviously, like rum, whiskey, cognac, even vodka, potentially. There's a wide range, gin, absinthe, a lot of different ways that you can go boozy. Here are the options. The first one, Gentleman Eau de Parfum Reserve Privé. Extremely popular popular. I love it. Great iris note to it, and that booziness has a nice sweet touch. Second choice, Jazz Club from Maison Martin Margiela. I'd say the most hyped, most loved from the entire fragrance line. That booziness mixing with a bit of smoke in there, really top notch. Number 3, Bulgari Man in Black gets compared to Spice Bomb from Victor and Rolf, only Man in Black does add a very nice boozy edge to it, which helps differentiate it. The next option, Stronger With You, absolutely. Kind of like what Reserve Privé did with that line, absolutely did with Stronger With You, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Added that sweet booziness, which elevated it, just like with Reserve Privé. And the last option, YSL L'Homme Eau de Parfum. Maybe that one doesn't get as much love as some of the others in this category, but it is an interesting addition to the L'Homme line, adding, once again, that boozy warmth and sweetness, which does take it a more modern direction. So, truth be told, on this last one, I was very torn, and I was going back and forth between two of them. You probably can guess. So I went to my wife. I had her make the decision, and the one that I'll be drafting to wrap up this draft. Stronger With You, absolutely. But between this and Reserve Privé, I couldn't tell you which one I would take. It's just, I love them both. But I kind of figured she might go absolutely because she's not as big on iris as I am, and she did. But I'm not going to complain because I think Stronger With You absolutely is awesome. And that style of fragrance, I think Stronger With You absolutely one of the absolute best. So there is my draft. That's how it shakes out. Those are the 7 that I'm taking. Again, let me know in the comments, which did you draft? Let me know your lineup. I want to see how different everybody's choices are, because I feel like it's going to be pretty difficult to have a lot of people that have the exact same choices here, but let's see. Thank you all for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.